Welcome back to Dance Dojo. Today I'm here with Euan. A few of you are already fans of him on the channel. I've seen some comments. We've done some Shines videos together. But I wanted to do a quick interview with him to see what we can pull out of his story and what you guys can learn from it. So Euan, how old are you? How long have you been dancing? Where are you from?
Okay, so I'm from the UK. I'm 25 years old and I've been dancing for 2.5 years.
Not very long.
Not too long.
And that's one of the things that jumped out at me because when I came back to Medellin, we had a little house party here and everyone's like, oh yeah, there's this guy from the UK. He's really good. He's like this little Mambo addict. You got to meet him. And he's really good. So I wanted to see how did Euan get from zero to where he is now and what you guys can learn from that. So I understand that you spent part of your teenage years in Ecuador.
Yes.
So tell us about that. Like where did you discover salsa?
So while I was in Ecuador, I kind of came across salsa, started listening to a little bit of it. I first saw crossbody salsa being danced at a party when I was about 15 or 16, and I was completely taken away by it. It was really impressive to me, but I didn't really know where to go or how to learn it, so it just sort of was etched into my memory, but I didn't really take too many steps to learn. I took a couple of classes towards the end of my time in Ecuador, in 2020. And then the pandemic happened and I went back to the UK around March 2020.
So like what level of salsa did you have while you were in Ecuador?
So some friends taught me the basic step and I did that at parties. Basic salsa step, basic bachata step, basic merengue. So I knew like the very basics of the genres that they'd put on at parties, and I'd just do that.
So for all the viewers who haven't been to Latin America before, it's super common for just like the average person in Latin America to just know like the basic step, like the basic salsa step, basic bachata step, or whatever you said, basic merengue step, and that's sometimes as far as they go. So that's just so you can culturally enjoy your time at parties, dance with friends, go out on dates, etc. Yeah. So it sounds like you just had the bare bones basics. Yeah. And then you went to the UK. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so while I was in Ecuador, that was basically as far as I got. Basically, just basic steps, and I got to the point where I could actually differentiate the genres when they put them on at parties, because at the start, I didn't know which was which.
I remember that phase.
Yeah.
That's awkward.
So yeah, it was a good training in rhythm. So I got the basic step down. And then in 2022, I was in London for a couple of weeks from work. Some friends took me to Salsa Temple, and it kind of reawakened my interest in salsa. And so I went back on Monday after work to do some classes, and I kind of just never stopped. I was trying to go to classes every day after work, and that's kind of where everything kicked off.
So I actually had to take Euan's phone away from him and put it on the table because he is a bit addicted, and so he just starts watching Mambo videos every free second he has. So I didn't want him to get distracted.
Yeah.
So since that day, he has not looked back.
Absolutely.
So you're from a smaller town outside of London, from what I understand.
Yeah, so I'm from Buckingham and I was living in Milton Keynes, which is a city about an hour outside of London.
Right. Yeah. So you started getting some foundations there, and then my understanding is then you jumped into London and took some classes with Super Mario. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so after a few months, maybe about 9 months to 10 months in Milton Keynes, I started going to Super Mario for a couple of months. For his on-one intermediate classes. So that was really helpful. I learned a lot from him, and it was just a completely different level to what I was used to. Definitely a lot more challenging, and it really opened my eyes to sort of how good some people get and the quality of classes there are.
Yeah, there's a lot of people that write into Dance Dojo and they're from smaller towns, and so that's part of the reason why they do the online classes. And so typically what people find is that there's a big difference between like salsa in a small town and then salsa in a place like London.
Yeah.
What were the things or the major takeaways in terms of building your foundations that you got I think most of those stronger foundations probably would have come from Super Mario.
Yeah.
So tell us about that.
Yeah, so I think that's when I really started feeling that I was improving and I sort of leveled up. Things like just knowing how to prep for spins. Knowing what counts to do different things on, being a lot more technical, knowing what beats, thinking about the followers' frame more and their weight transfer and how that relates to when you lead things, when you prep things. That was definitely a big sort of turning point for me in my leading skills.
Yeah. I think that's a really good point, because everything that Euan just mentioned are just like foundational things. And a lot of people, probably a lot of you watching, think that salsa has like 1,000 things that you need to think about. But really, as a lead, there's probably only like 5 to 10 things that you need to get down really well. And then those 5 to 10 things, those techniques, your timing, how you take care of your frame, your posture, etc. All of that applies to everything. So when people are talking about get your foundations down and get your foundations from someone who knows how to teach them very well, that I think is one of the reasons that helped Euan excel in just a very short period of time.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've had friends that started with Super Mario and within a year they were just absolute monsters. And just having that quality of teacher makes a massive difference in your progress as a dancer.
So you were living outside of London. I understand that you didn't keep practicing with Super Mario forever.
No, so because of the travel, it was difficult for me to keep on going, because it was about an hour and a half there and an hour and a half back. So on a weeknight, it was just a lot of time.
Some dedication.
For an hour and a half class, yeah. So I had to sort of just keep on doing the classes where I was, and I also started taking some classes online as well.
Right, okay, so tell us about that. So once you took some class with Super Mario, went back to your town, you weren't going to London as much, then you went online.
Yeah, so after about a year of dancing overall and being in Super Mario's classes, I realized that some things were really missing in my dancing. For instance, my turn technique was horrible. Sometimes Super Mario would put in a double left or a right and then left turn for the leads in the middle of a sequence, and that would throw me off. So I realized I need to get better at this, and I looked at information about how to turn better. And then I came across some online programs like Brenda Liu's programs for footwork, and I wanted to get better with my shines, my body movement, so I started taking classes with her, and I definitely felt that helped, and I tried to establish a good practice habit. So yeah. What
were some of the other online programs you tried, and kind of like what made you decide to join them? Was each one for a specific thing that you were trying to learn, or how did you approach it?
I'd say that I started with Brenda Liu. I'm not quite sure how I came across her stuff. I think maybe on social media, but she was very technique focused. So I got some kind of basic techniques from her, and then I took some online classes on Eddie Torres Jr.'s online platform, because I really love how he dances, and he had classes focused on things that I was interested in like pachanga, cha-cha-cha, mambo shines. And then I also took some classes on Joel Salsa's website, because again, I like how he dances. And then I also did a program from Svetlana Ray about kind of improvisation.
So like one of the things that I noticed about Euan is that he basically does everything he can to get the information that he wants to get better. So it's not like, oh, I'm from a small town, like I'm just gonna take what I can get where I'm from. It's like, I'm gonna go look for what I want. And he very meticulously went through those things, found his weaknesses, and went after them. And I think that made a big difference in your dancing. Or has made a big difference in your dancing.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think that it's really important to take ownership over your learning and be a proactive learner and participant in your own process. And if you don't have teachers in your city, go out and find them online. If you don't know something, try and actually research it instead of just kind of being passive in your learning and waiting for the teacher to give you everything. Sometimes you need to go out and find things yourself.
100%.
Yeah.
Be an active learner. That is going to make a huge difference in your dancing. So we met here in this apartment in Medellin, Colombia. What made you decide to come to Colombia?
So I got to the point where the classes in my own city weren't really cutting it anymore. I wasn't really progressing. They were a bit too easy for me. And to find good teachers, I had to go into London, which is expensive, time consuming. And I wanted to be somewhere where I could work, I could enjoy life, do salsa every day and take lots of classes. And I did some research and Medellin seemed to sort of fit the bill. So that's why I decided to come to Medellin.
Cool. And I remember when we first met, I was talking to you, you're like, hey, I'm going to spend a month, the whole month of December, which was just this past December, in Cali to learn salsa caleña, to just absorb some of the salsa culture. So if a lot of you don't know, Cali, Colombia, claims to be the capital of salsa in the world. And the way they just live and breathe salsa there is incredible. And they have this event called La Feria de Cali, which is between Christmas and New Year's. And it's full of salsa parades, events for like music lovers. It's got shows, it's got crazy concerts. So if you love salsa, it's really something to experience. So tell us about your month in Cali and why you wanted to learn salsa caleña.
So I'd always been interested in salsa caleña. I'd come across it on social media and I'd taught myself a lot of the basics of YouTube tutorials and some online platforms again. Stephanie Moreno has an online platform that I use to sort of get my basics in salsa caleña down. So I wanted to kind of continue that process. And I was there for a month. I took classes with a few different schools. I even got roped into doing a performance. So we did a little show at one of the schools called Vibrando.
That must have been fun.
Yeah, that was really good fun. Yeah, challenging. And very physically intensive. But Cali's amazing. It breathes salsa. It's a really interesting place to be.
Cool.
Yeah.
And so when we met, he was telling me that he was going to have his own Airbnb in Cali. So he's like, hey, if you're coming down for La Feria, like, come stay with me. So I did. I took advantage of that. And we were hanging out. We were getting to know each other. Yeah. And the first thing I noticed is that Euan, we're just hanging out at his apartment, and every, 20 minutes, he's like, hey, do you mind if I just throw in a video and do a little practice? So he's practicing like 4 to 6 times a day. So it's very clear that he was obsessed from the beginning.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about your practice process. How do you go about practicing? What do you think about? Yeah. What do you focus on?
So I think the focus changes over time. I've had periods where I've been very much focused on like improvisation. When I was doing the Salsa Instincts course from Svetlana Ray. It depends kind of what platform I'm subscribed to at the time and what I'm interested in. I've had times where I've been more focused on salsa caleña, but I always try and be focused and like deliberate in my practice, thinking about kind of what I'm trying to do, and I'll put on a video, trying to learn some techniques, and then maybe I'll drill it myself if the drill isn't sort of included within the class. Try and maybe increase the speed, look at myself in the mirror, work out any issues, and then maybe think about variations that I can sort of create from, a choreo that's been given.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's like a bunch of things that Euan just said, and I don't know if you picked up on them, but they're really important if you want to improve faster. So one, he said deliberate practice. Deliberate practice means you're practicing with a specific purpose or goal in mind. If you just go practice doing partner work, footwork, but you're not actually specifically focusing on a thing, you're not going to get much better at anything. So you want to have that specific goal. He also said he had a mirror. So he's getting some sort of feedback. You don't always need a teacher to get feedback. You can just look at yourself and you've seen what the teacher's done in the video and you compare yourself. So getting that feedback is super important too. And I think the other thing that comes really clear from Euan is just like his desire to explore and kind of be creative and just like try things. So he's not necessarily just doing what's in the video. He's taking what he learns from the video and then being like, oh, how can I apply this? Or how might I use this to improvise in my footwork? Or, you know what I mean? He's not just taking the base level move. He's seeing where he can take it with different connections or pathways. And I think that makes a big difference, because when you're actively using your brain, that's when those pathways are going to become stronger, as opposed to just like sitting there and passively consuming from a teacher. So after a month in Cali, what's the verdict? Salsa caleña, mambo, or salsa en línea? Like what's your favorite? What's your preference?
I still really like salsa caleña. I'd say I enjoy crossbody partner work more, but I think that the shines for salsa caleña are super interesting. But it definitely requires a lot more energy. So if you're going to be dancing all night, I think it's going to be easier to do that doing mambo or doing crossbody than salsa caleña for sure.
Cool. All right, so let's get into some rapid fire questions. I got my computer here because I'm not going to remember all these by heart. So what have been your biggest challenges?
I'd say maybe comparing myself to other dancers, other people that progress faster than me, maybe that have access to better teachers or better resources. I'd say I'm quite hard on myself.
Okay. Have you found any antidote for that?
I think maybe just practicing more, maybe being competitive with yourself. Try and compare yourself against the you of 2 months ago or 3 months ago instead of other people.
I think that's a really valuable point. Yeah. What is your style based on?
I'd say I'm very much influenced by New York style, with some sort of caleña influences, but I really do like the classic sort of New York Palladium style.
What are you really good at?
I'd say I'm quite creative. I'm quite good at interpreting music when I dance. And yeah, I think being fun, kind of goofing around on the dance floor.
Yeah. Do you feel like your time in Ecuador, and like he obviously speaks fluent Spanish because he spent like 5 years in Ecuador, now he's here. Do you feel that has impacted your ability to connect with the music and the culture?
I think it definitely helps when you understand the lyrics. So you know what they're talking about, you know the message of the song. Sometimes for people that don't speak Spanish, you think it's a really happy song, but they're actually talking about the enslavement of kind of Africans in the Caribbean or whatever.
There's definitely a few TikTok videos about that.
Yeah, I think it does help. Yeah.
Okay, so what are you weak or bad at?
I'd say sometimes I switch the 1 and the 5. I end up dancing on 6 instead of on 2, or on a 5 instead of on 1. But I'm definitely improving at that. Yeah.
What do you want to improve on right now?
Right now, I'm working on kind of my hand gestures and my arm movement in salsa. Thinking about where my hands are, little gestures that you do at different points, especially kind of mambo-based hand gestures.
So you're starting from 0, knowing what you know now, what would you do differently?
I'd definitely start looking for online resources a lot faster, like straight away. I'd try and think about how I can improve my basic from day one. Thinking about those small details about like where my shoulders are, where my torso is, where my hips go, and start training that from day one. Yeah.
I think that's a really good point, because one, the thing that makes someone look more advanced or more beginner is definitely just like the quality of their basic. And one of the hardest things to get in salsa, I think, is just like the body movement. Yeah. So when you avoid the body movement for a long period of time and then try and just like insert it in when you become like, let's call it more intermediate at partner work, it just takes that much longer to get at it. So I think starting that early on is a really good tip.
Yeah.
What's different about how you dance?
I think I'm probably more in tune with the music than a lot of other dancers. So I try and really dance to the music instead of using the music as a metronome. I think, especially in Europe or maybe the United States, we end up using the music as a metronome, which just kind of counts the time, and we just do all our figures and turn patterns on top of the music. But when you try and connect more deeply with the music and you react to it, it's a lot more enjoyable as a dance and a lot more satisfying, I think, for your partner as well.
I couldn't agree more, and I'm in there with you on that right now. What advice would you give someone starting out?
Just train your basic like crazy. Just try and be obsessed about small details. Practice by yourself. If you only go to class once a week, it's not going to cut it. You need to think about your body as an instrument. If you take piano classes and you don't practice in between classes, you're not going to get better. So practice a lot. And also have a different mindset towards practice than you do in socials. Think about practice as the time to train, to make mistakes, to mess up, and then socials, maybe you go and you have fun and you just kind of let it all out.
Fun fact about Euan, I didn't know this, but then after he came back from Cali, I saw him doing some piano lessons, and he can also play a pretty mean piano tumbao.
I can, yes.
Okay, what have been your biggest silent or psychological struggles?
I think maybe comparing myself against people. I'm definitely that sort of person that pushes myself hard and kind of wonders why I'm not progressing as fast as I should be. I put a lot of pressure on myself. Yeah.
So he's putting a lot of pressure on himself. He's gotten really good in just 2.5 years. So everyone has their own struggles. It doesn't matter how long it takes you to get good, who you are, you're always going to have those struggles. So try and be just a little bit nicer to yourself on the journey. I think that's going to help a lot. What drills or exercises have given you a disproportionate results in salsa?
Basic body movement drills. Thinking about how you transfer your weight, just drilling that a ridiculous amount. I think that it can't be underestimated how important that is. Knowing how to use the floor, that really made a massive difference in my dance.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the most difficult things to get as a dancer, is that when you see someone who is really good at what they do, everything just flows so effortlessly, but it's hard to understand like how much time and effort and like picking apart the little details that it took them to get there.
Yeah. People don't realize the process that goes into like the smallest things.
Yeah. Are there any technical aha moments, technique moments that have changed how you dance?
I think there's been a lot. I think definitely, like I said before, about how to use the floor, how the body movement kind of from the top of the body comes from the floor, and how that transfers through the body. That was definitely a massive changing kind of turning point for me. Thinking about using preps in my leading, when those happen, thinking about how to understand the followers' weight transfers and their frame. Those all really helped me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
One of the biggest things on that, like just building on that, what you said, for me was realizing that like if I'm a leader and I'm trying to take a follow through something, one of the most important things for the lead is to know exactly where the follow's weight should be.
Yeah.
And so one of the things that I actually started doing was learning like all of those basic steps, but from the follow's perspective. Because as soon as you know those, like first of all leads learn like a left turn and a right turn. So that's pretty easy. But most leads, especially at the beginning, never learn like an inside and outside turn.
Yeah.
So I found as soon as I learned like the inside and outside turn footwork from like the follow's perspective, all of a sudden I started leading it more on the right timing.
Yeah.
Because if you don't have that awareness of like where should the follow be, how are you really going to guide them?
Yeah.
So that was one thing that helped a lot for me. I like this question. What do Colombian dancers focus on that you think other places in the world overlook?
I think that here in Medellin, there's some very talented dancers. They're very musical. know how to interpret music, and even within partner work, which I've seen very little of in Europe. Some dancers from the school that I go to, Mambo. That's been really interesting for me to see, and I've definitely taken some of kind of those concepts into my own dancing. Yeah.
One thing that I've really noticed here, and I don't know if it's as popular around the world, but there's been a lot of focus on improvisation and battling here lately, which I found really interesting because I come from like a hip hop background, and that's kind of like the culture of hip hop is like you get into these circles, these ciphers, and like it could be an MC battle, it could be a DJ battle, or like a b-boy b-girl battle, and that since day one in salsa was not really a thing. It was more just like a social dance. But these days, I think with the rise of like Fernando Sosa's Salsa Nama competition, you've got more and more people that are excited about this improvisation and battling. And definitely in Colombia, they've started doing a lot of improvisation practice. And I know you've gone to some of those.
Yeah, no, that's been really interesting. I've not been doing it super regularly, but I've really enjoyed it when I have been able to go. Done a few battles, won a couple here and there, lost a lot. I think it's definitely good. That builds up your kind of confidence and makes you think about what you transmit when you're dancing, which is a whole different area, completely different kind of point of view from what you normally do when you're just doing shines.
100%. I mean, when you're in a class just learning partner work, you're not really thinking of how you're presenting that, right? I mean, one, it's not a show, but then also it is a very valuable skill to know how you're presenting yourself.
Yes, absolutely.
Be more aware of like your posture, your presence, like you were saying, like your hand gestures, those sort of little details.
Yeah, or like maybe even how do you connect with your partner when you're doing shines? What are you trying to transmit to your partner? Are you just doing a Susie Q because that's what you know, or are you trying to do a Susie Q with maybe a little mischievousness, or I don't know, what are you trying to transmit?
I think that is what makes the difference between just someone who's technically good versus someone who is like a real dancer who can connect with their partner, is that sort of back and forth, that playfulness, or like you said, that exchange is like figuring out what is my partner's energy, and then trying to come up with some way to bring that back and forth.
Playing off each other.
Cool. When you're not feeling motivated, what keeps you practicing anyway?
Good question. I mean, I have gone through times when I don't practice for like at least half an hour. But
he takes breaks sometimes.
Sometimes I do take a break. No, I think just trying to keep consistent, even when motivation isn't there. It's just discipline, just willpower. I've got a little habit track on my phone where I track the days I've practiced. I'm on a 12-day streak at the moment. So
well done.
Yeah,
I think those little things make a big difference. So if you need help practicing, get a streak going, and that's going to help you not want to break the streak.
And also sometimes just get dancing a little bit, and then you'll find something, maybe I can work on this concept, and then you start having fun.
Right, just like turn on a song.
Exactly. And then you know what you want to do, and you have fun practicing.
Cool. What's something most people underestimate about getting good at salsa?
I think just the amount of time. It's not easy. It's definitely a tricky dance to learn, and again, the importance of the basic. The basic is definitely the hardest step there is. And I think people can get really caught up in learning like super complicated shines, but they don't think about their body movement. So I think, yeah, just again, always come back to the basics. Always think about how to improve those basics.
There's so much that you can do with them. Like even if you don't do very complex moves, but you just have a nice simple dance with someone where your technique is good, a really nice body movement, and just a beautiful connection with them.
Yeah.
You don't need to do complicated things to have a really
Absolutely.
nice
dance.
Yeah. What's something totally unrelated to salsa that's made you better at salsa?
I think maybe learning the piano when I was a kid helped me, because again, it's like a meta skill about knowing how to practice. So when you know how to practice something, that transfers to a lot of different areas. Being able to concentrate on one thing, drill it, and then put that into practice.
I would have to completely agree with that, because for example, there's a lot of people when they're learning salsa and they're like, oh, why is this person so much further ahead of me? It's like, well, maybe that person played, football or soccer when they were a kid, or they were an acrobat. It's like when you have this awareness of space, awareness of your body, like those things, like you said, are meta skills. They transfer to other skills. And so that's just another reason why you can't compare yourself to someone else, is because you didn't have their childhood, you didn't have their upbringing, you don't have their skills. So it just doesn't really make sense.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of things that can transfer to make someone learn faster than someone else.
Absolutely.
What mindset shift has had the biggest impact on your dancing?
I think trying to become more musical. Just like focusing on musicality, thinking about how to interpret it. Learning to listen to the music, learning to distinguish between instruments. Learning to pick up on riffs. That's been massive. It just changes completely how you dance and how you look when you dance.
I feel like that is one of the most skills that is lacking. Like I'm just thinking of all the classes I've taken, especially outside of Colombia, there's just not a focus on musicality at all.
Yeah.
And that's really why we're here, is to have fun and connect with the music, which is crazy.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think it's because it's difficult. It's difficult to teach. It's frustrating for people. And there's a lot of kind of individual work that you have to do.
That's true. I do think it's tough. It takes you out of your comfort zone. But at the end of the day, I think that musicality, learning that stuff about the instruments, putting in the work, and then also working on your body movement, those two things together is really kind of like where the magic happens. And of course, you have your partner who you have to kind of find out, who is my partner, who am I, and combine that. But like without the musicality and without that body movement, it can look kind of stale.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, let's wrap it up.
Yeah.
What would you say to a dancer who's watching this, so all of you, who's just getting started, or maybe they're along in their journey and they're a little discouraged?
So just keep going. Yeah. I'll keep drilling the basic, be patient, be kind to yourself, and practice a lot. There's no substitute for practice, really.
That was straight from the heart. You said it right to the camera. I like that. All right, last question. What's next for you in salsa? Goals, dreams, challenges? What's coming up?
Just keep on practicing, keeping on improving. At some point, I'd definitely like to get to the point where I can kind of share my passion for salsa with some people. Maybe do some basic Mambo classes, kind of transmit what I've learned about musicality, help people to get more in touch with the music. I'd really love to be able to help people to do that.
Cool, man. I think you'd be a great teacher for what it's worth. So anyways, thank you for being here with me today and for sharing everything you've learned in your short, you said 2.5 years.
Yes, yeah.
So thanks for being here, Euan. It was a pleasure. And we'll catch you guys next week.
See you. Nice, that was cool. Was that good?
Yeah, I think it's good.